Please join me in welcome Leslie Berckes to the stage.
Well, thanks, Vince. Thanks, everybody. I think I'm going to attempt the handheld. We'll see how it goes. So it's great to see you all. I really appreciate being able to speak with you today and share with you a little bit more about stories from the front lines, the people who are making trees happen. You in this room are doing that, and we get to see people from across the country and globe doing this work every single day. So I'll just kick off right away, and if you'll indulge me, I want to share a little bit about myself. You've got this lady here who you don't know who she is, where is she from? So I just wanted to share a little bit more about myself. And fun fact, I love mascots. I just love, love, love mascots. I love that someone puts them on and willingly does it. I love that they walk around baseball fields in like hamburger costumes or whatever it might be. I love that you can call up someplace and say, hello, yes, I would like a tree costume and I want it to look really happy and I want someone to wear it around, and they'll make it for you. And they might even make you an emerald ash borer costume as well. This is me in the hallowed halls of the Iowa State Capitol, wearing around an emerald ash borer with the Iowa State legislators. So I really take it for the team when I am out about with tree stuff. So here's the map of the country. You're over on the East Coast. I'm here right in smack dab in the middle, Des Moines, Iowa, middle of the country, middle of the state. Wave next time you fly over. I understand that not many people make their way through there, but that is where I'm from, and I call home every single day. I live there with my husband, Jeff, and our two cats, Rachel Carson, Aldo Leopold, and the newest addition, Rosalie Edge. They are environmentalists, and they have big shoes to fill or paws to fill in their work every day. I worked for Trees Forever, the statewide nonprofit in Iowa, where we were providing technical assistance and tree support to communities across the state of Iowa. So most communities in Iowa are 2,500 or fewer, so we have a lot of small towns across the state, and so we're working with them to get trees planted. I got my certified arborist while I was at Trees Forever and just learned a lot about how you're doing trees in small communities, and then also ultimately spent most of my time in Des Moines, Iowa's largest capital, and my proudest achievement there was starting our Growing Futures Teen Employment Program, where we're employing teens to care for trees across the city, engaging them in professional development. You likely have a program like this in the area and have seen something similar. So that's a little about me. Thanks for letting me introduce myself, and so now you know a little bit about me before we go into the rest of this talk. And really, my goals here today are to share more about the Urban and Community Forestry Society. It's an organization dedicated to the professionals of urban forestry and the profession of urban forestry. And I want to share more about the stories of those professionals that call UCFS, that's our acronym, that they call this home. And I think as you hear these stories, you yourself will recognize yourself in these stories and understand what others are going through because you see it from the stories you'll hear. Or you're a volunteer, you're someone in the community, and you care about the people who are making those daily tree care decisions because they're your goals as well. You want more trees in the ground, you want them well cared for. We need to know more about the people who are being asked to do this work every single day. So 2 years ago, almost to this month actually, I started at the Urban and Community Forestry Society, and I have the great honor of leading us in this mission, which is to build the confidence, competence, and camaraderie of all professionals who manage trees and forests to create and sustain more livable communities. We were founded in 1964, so we're celebrating our 60th anniversary. We are a membership-based organization like ASLA, APA, all of those other types of associations. That is the type of association we are as well. People become members of this society. We have an international membership, and that's largely because of that last point. We are a professional affiliate of the International Society of Arboriculture, which just means that we specialize in a portion of arboriculture, the urban forestry section of it, the people making decisions within the communities. And so in 1964, this organization was founded to give voice to the people who are making those daily municipal arboricultural decisions. And in continuing that legacy, I like to kind of break down our mission a little bit further and say the people who make UCFS home are the professionals who make and support daily tree planting and care decisions in communities. They decide who, what, where, when, and how a tree is going to go in the ground, come out of the ground, be cared for. That is who makes this society home, and we want to make sure they feel really confident in the decisions that they're making. So Vince kind of alluded to this at the beginning. About a year ago, we asked our members and non-members, including several of you here in the room, to tell us more about themselves and their work. Among the many questions we asked everybody was, what best describes your position? We wanted to know about our current members and how they describe the work they're doing every day. And you see that, you don't have to, there's a lot of words up there, don't worry. But that second bar is showing that 22% of our current members were using the term municipal arborist to describe their work. The other 78% were using some variation of arborist, but the highest percent was urban forester, and that's what you see all the way to your left. So with this knowledge in mind, our board team was also highly aware of a new research paper that was put out by some notable urban forestry and arboriculture researchers, including Dr. Eric Weissman, who you'll hear right after this. And the title of the paper was Borrowed Credentials in Surrogate Professional Societies, a critical analysis of the urban forestry profession. If you like reading research papers, definitely recommend that you take a look at this. But to boil it down, the researchers of this paper make the case that urban forestry is a burgeoning profession. And as such, we need to treat it like nursing, doctoring, lawyering, engineering, and any of the other professionals that are guided by a body of knowledge where you are tested on your knowledge, and you have a society that brings together the people and guides them. To break that down just a little bit further, to say a true profession has two core things to it. It provides an essential service to society, and it requires a high level of specialization from experts who possess a specific body of knowledge. And I think we could all say right now that we can make the case for urban forestry that it is an essential service to society. Those trees going in the ground are essential, and it requires a level of specialization. We need to be treating those trees in a scientific way. We need to know how they grow, how they die, and we need to make sure we're doing that based off a body of knowledge. So with both those the survey that we did ourselves and our research article, along with many talks with friends in this audience, this society took a big step and we changed our name. So if anyone recognizes the name all the way to the left, the Society of Municipal Arborists, that was who we were for almost 60 years of our existence. And we said, we need to make a big change. We see the urban forestry becoming a true profession. Our members are not using the term municipal arborist to describe their work. And we took a big swing, and we said, let's change the name of the society, and we became the Urban and Community Forestry Society, with a new logo, new website, new social media presence, all done in the name of being more inclusive of the many people who are making daily tree care decisions. So this is a really exciting time, and right now at this very moment, you are sitting in the middle of a professional revolution. In this room right now, we can look back at this time and say urban forestry became a true job that people were able to take on. If we do our jobs right, the Urban Community Forestry Society, if you all, a young 8th grader, that's when I was asked in 8th grade, what do you want to be when you grow up? And that's when I picked my job. I was picked nurse at that time. But we could have a rubric in front of 8th graders that say, what do you want to be? And they could say nurse, engineer, firefighter, urban forester. Yeah, I want to do that. And I'm going to take the steps that it takes to become an urban forester. So from this national seat where I get to sit in, knowing a little bit about how those daily tree decisions are made, and knowing all of you in this room are making really big tree decisions happen in this metro region, I want to acknowledge the profound understanding that we have a big job in front of us, and that we need you, the people on the ground who make or break a daily tree decision or a tree canopy decision, to feel really confident, feel like you're supported, and you have the knowledge to make trees happen. And as I share, the Urban and Community Forestry Society's job is to pull together like-minded people, and we do this by giving them a place to call home, a place where they feel supported and not alone, to give them a seat at the table, give their collective voice strength. That's what an association is for. One person at their desk has a voice within their community, but you pull together 2,000 members, and we have 2,000 people behind us saying, we believe in trees are important and we need to make big decisions for them. And above all, we need to ensure that we have leaders like you who will push us to new heights and ultimately grow healthy trees where people live. And luckily we have you, because now is the time for urban forestry. There's been no better time to be in the tree business than right now, because we have so many big influences upon us. We have historic levels of funding from the U.S. Forest Service in the form of the Inflation Reduction Act. We have a climate crisis that is demanding green solutions. We've engaged citizens looking for environmental solutions, and we have more focus on tree equity. And as I just said, we have a growing profession that we need to be focusing on. You here in the metro area have your own big things happening, including a 50% canopy goal for the county, and then DC itself with a 40% tree canopy goal. Add on to that, I won't go through these. You're tree people, you know the amazing tree benefits. I imagine one of these things is most important to you, or a few of them really guide your work every single day. It's what gets you up, it's what keeps you going. Because of all the people in the world, you get to count yourselves as doing something incredibly impactful, something that has the ability to change lives, something that has instant impact. It layers on top of each other, and is one of the few things that we'll put in the ground outside that appreciates over time and does not depreciate the moment we put it in. And this photo here is just a little reminder to me for one of my kind of whys when I do it every day. I did a lot of tree planting at Trees Forever along the streets of Des Moines, and I'd be laboring on the ground trying to find the root flare. All these volunteers are staring at me, and I'm like, why is this tree so deep in the pot? When am I ever gonna find the root flare on it? It's incredibly root bound. I'm laboring, it's too high, it's too low, it's too high. I finally get the tree perfect, stand up, and would you believe it, there's already a bee sipping the nectar from this tree. The minute I put it in the ground, it made an immediate impact, and all creatures great and small to imagine that that was something that I was able to do along with those volunteers. But my gosh, is it kind of rough out there right now? You may feel like things are changing faster than ever, and it might feel a little or a lot uncomfortable. And some may even say that we're in the age of the polycrisis. This was a term originally coined by a French theorist, Edgar Morin, that refers to the various crises in economics, geopolitics, and the environment, which are feeding into each other and exacerbating already difficult circumstances. The World Economic Forum, this is a lot of words on this chart, but really it's just saying that the polycrisis is present and future risks that interact with each other to form a polycrisis, a cluster of related global risks with compounding effects such that the overall impact exceeds the sum of its parts. This is why, for some of us, it might feel like we're standing on sand and it's shifting underneath us because there is so much happening across the world. And add on to that, you here in your local communities. There's so much going on in your own personal life, including city council demands, managing staff and crews, upset homeowners, really enthusiastic homeowners, low tree stock, not the right tree stock, and maybe you might even add the 40 to 50% tree canopy goal onto that as a big high pressure stakes that you're having to deal with every single day. So with all these big world events stacked on top of each other and your daily work tasks, not to mention your personal life, how do you all keep that spark going? How do you keep the things that inspire you every single day? Well, 3 things that I want to leave you with today. If we want this big, beautiful sycamore, my favorite tree, this is one that I walk underneath on my daily walk throughout Des Moines. If we want to have that, we need you. You're not alone. And the Urban Community Forestry Society and its members across the country are here for you, because you are a multiverse of talent. Everything you do every single day, make sure that a daily tree care decision is made, and you are the people, the professionals that ensure that trees happen. So after that member survey that I mentioned, our next step was to dive deeper into who urban foresters are. Who are our members? We asked them a little bit broadly about their titles they use, but we want to know what they're experiencing every single day. And we did this by conducting a series of interviews with members to better understand their perspectives and experiences. And I'm going to share those in a series of videos here in just a bit. But first, does anyone recognize these images? Does anyone know what they have in common? Shout it out if you do. I know there's somebody in here. Role-playing games. Thank you. I was hoping somebody would yell it out just in case. Whew, thanks. So these are what we call role-playing games. We've got Dungeons and Dragons, we got The Witcher, and Elden Ring. I'm not a gamer myself, so why did I put these up here? Well, I wanted to, test you, but also I'm a 90s kid, and Mortal Kombat was really popular when I was growing up, and so very, very bloody. But it was really big when I was growing up. And then about a month ago, there was this social media trend where people were getting in their fighting stances, and they were kind of bouncing back and forth. A month ago in social media land's like forever, so hopefully you remember this. But people were getting in their fighting stances, and if you see a role-playing game, people get like this, and you pick your player, and they're kind of bouncing back and forth. And in this social media trend, people were doing this, and like words would fly across the screen for the things that bother them, and they'd punch them out as they flew across the screen. So this was kind of coming to mind as I was getting this talk ready. And if you're not an avid gamer, here's a screen you might see in a role-playing game. A series of characters show up, and you scroll through the screen, and you pick people based off their strength or power levels. And you pick them because you might want to have a certain experience. You might say, I really want somebody who's high in dexterity and intelligence because I want to find the scroll this time. I want to find the hidden thing in this game. I want to win this time around. And so you get to pick who they are. So now this is on my mind, and I kind of keep going, and I think, what if we're the players in this role-playing game? This is Rachel Habig-Myers. She is the board president of the Urban and Community Forestry Society, and here she is staring up at a big tree, probably trying to spot a spotted lanternfly or an emerald ash borer flying around or something up there. So what if we're the players in this game? And what if our power levels go up and down based off our experiences? This is Earl Utzler, the district forester in for DDOT, and his power levels might go up and down depending on how he experiences things on a day-to-day life. Also, in these role-playing games, you often end up with like gold coins, and you can buy things that help you do your mission better. So I like to imagine that he bought those kitty litters pails so he could carry water or gloves or pruning saws to his tree planting site. So again, we are our players in this multiverse of urban forestry. And I want to share several videos with you about these urban foresters across the country, across North America. So let's meet our superheroes.
Clinton, I'm the city forester for the city of Rock Hill in South Carolina.
My name is Robert Castañeda. I work as an urban forest coordinator for the city of Santa Monica.
My name is Carolina Arango, and I have been with the city of Surrey in British Columbia, Canada, for 13 years.
My name is Joe Charup. I'm the Vice President of Horticulture at the Greenwood Cemetery in Brooklyn, New York.
I'm Heath Ellis. I'm the city forester, self-proclaimed city forester and park superintendent for the city of Pleasant Hill.
My name is Heidi Lakis. I work at the City of Eugene Urban Forestry, and I have been here for 5 years.
My name is Frank Terrence. I work at Baton Rouge Green in Baton Rouge, Louisiana.
Hello, good afternoon. This is Emily King down in Austin, Texas.
My name is Kyle Urita. I work for the City of Meridian in Meridian, Idaho.
There are superheroes that join you across the country and into Canada. Oh yeah, we're amazing people. I do want to point out that Heath and Kyle are calling in from their office, their truck, in the middle of the field. So, we have our offices in multiple different places. A little bit more about our superheroes. I won't go through all these, but I did want to call out a few. Like Frank at Baton Rouge Green. They both manage the city of Baton Rouge along with the entire parish's tree population. The human population is 450,000, but they manage approximately 80,000. They're currently in their tree inventory phase, so they're not quite sure how many trees they really like or how many trees they have. They have a staff of 7, and the general community sentiment in Baton Rouge is, yeah, I like trees, but I do not like hurricanes, and I do not like what they do to trees when they come through. Heath Ellis, in a suburb of Des Moines, Iowa, he has a human population of 11,000. Trees, not sure. We have not done a tree inventory. Staff of 1 to 2 if he's lucky. And probably his sentiment in the city is, do we plant trees here? And then finally, Kyle Urita, he's in Meridian, Idaho. Human population of 129,000. 7,000 park trees are under his purview. good luck figuring out who manages the city street trees, because it could be the state, could be the county, could be the city. It's your guess. You have to look at the map and hope maybe it's not yours, depending on the situation. He's a staff of one, and in his community in Idaho, people think trees are cool. Also, don't tell me what to do. So these are our people every day in this multiverse getting trees done, and we're facing challenges in our work, like maybe unlicensed tree contractors. So we're out there fighting the good fight. We're trying to win. We're trying to get more trees in the ground. And so we asked our superheroes, what are some barriers or challenges you face, or what depletes your power sources?
You know, trees seem to be an afterthought on a lot of things that a city may do, because it's just like, well, you can remove it and just grow another one. It doesn't matter. And especially over here in Eugene, it's like, well, everything's green here. Everybody knows you're a green city. There's trees everywhere. There's forests over there. Why do we need trees in the city? Like, there's a whole forest over there. And so I think when you hear those things over and over, it could make you a little bit more timid on stuff, just because people are not seeing what you do as valuable or your resource as valuable. And so I think that can be internalized a bit.
In most places, and especially in a cemetery where land is tied to revenue generation, finding opportunities for planting, is a challenge. But I'd say that, really preserving the largest trees of our collection is something that we're really focused on. I think too often in urban settings, trees get removed because they pose a potential risk. And what we're trying to do here is really approach tree care from a preservation mindset. So looking at ways to preserve the trees that provide the largest environmental benefit and keep them standing for as long as possible.
I want to stop on Joe real quick, because I think this idea of planting in cemeteries is such a unique space for urban forestry that often gets overlooked. Private property, we know, is our highest percent of our urban forestry programs. Joe is representing the largest green space in Brooklyn, New York. And to be able to manage trees in a really progressive way, or maybe I shouldn't say use the word progressive, but thinking about how you might keep a tree in a cemetery that you might not keep along the street, or places that we might experiment more with new species or carbon crediting in a cemetery where we might consider it safe space because it's not at risk for development or road projects or something like that. So I really just want to acknowledge what Joe is up to in Brooklyn, and think about how we treat some of those spaces that are a little unique in our urban forests.
What makes the job hard is the residents. They're very demanding. They're very particular. They expect a lot. They live in an expensive coastal city, so we do get the comments like, "Oh, what do my taxes pay for?" So we get that a lot, and we do have to tell them no sometimes, because in this city, I think we're lucky that the city takes full ownership of the trees, right, from planting to maintenance to removal. Residents don't have to do anything. They're not allowed to do anything to the public trees. So that ownership of the trees causes them to get mad at us sometimes, because they're not allowed to do anything to the trees or remove it at their will. So it's a lot of community engagement and telling them, like, this is the process. We're going to maintain the tree on our schedule because that's what we're funded to do. So it is the residents.
You don't have a team around you. It can be a little brutal sometimes. Honestly, you don't really feel like you can talk to somebody who's going through exactly what you're going through. You might get, you could get that irate customer. You once a week or something, and you're fine with that, but you might get 3 of those in a day, and it just kind of weighs on you.
I suppose us smaller communities, we just often lack depth in personnel. We just don't receive enough educated personnel that are capable of kind of like carrying the best practices through.
I think the biggest challenge is what I mentioned about the housing and climate goals. I've come to the realization that at first I was very angry. I went through anger because how come we want to pave everything? But I've come to accept that and to start to think, okay, we need to figure out a way to do both. And so that's the biggest challenge, is to, get my coworkers and even people above of me thinking that way. I've come to accept it, but not everybody around me has. And so we need to get to that point so that we can start thinking more. We need to think outside the box and be more creative to figure out ways where we can do both.
I wanted to go back to what Matt and Heath said. Matt from Rock Hill, South Carolina, Heath from Pleasant Hill. They both said that it's rough because they're a department of one. Who here is a department or staff of one? Anybody? Okay, raise your hands a little higher. Somebody go say hi, tap him on the shoulder, say, ask how he's doing, ask what he's excited about, and ask how you might be able to provide some support. Because so many urban forestry programs across the country are department of one. There might be 59th on the list out of everything at public works departments. We're working to change that. We want to change that very badly, but it can be really lonely to try and get that work done every day. So another thing you might find within these urban forestry, or in these role-playing, our urban forestry role games, is a hidden scroll, a text that tells you where the treasure is hidden, tells you where something is. But within our urban forestry here, sometimes they have things hidden about them that no one else knows. Their family and friends might not know it, their colleagues don't know. They keep this information hidden away, like where to find the unlimited tree stock. So we asked our urban forestry heroes, what don't people know about your work? Or what is contained within the hidden scroll?
At this stage of my career, most people romanticize my role as being sort of like swinging from trees with a chainsaw. And I've climbed trees a few times in my career, only to learn, really. But my job is behind a desk, and the assets that I'm managing are more personnel and management of staff, and then management of budgets, and trying to receive grants and trying to do programmatic managing from inside. But then the best part about these kind of jobs is that, you know, once you exhaust, that you can go outside and experience the landscape as well. So that there's the benefits of those things. But my job is at this point, my career is about managing people as much as it is about managing trees.
It's a unique experience being in a nonprofit, because it's more like you're not mandated by the city to have one. So you have to have people who really care, really want to be in it, doing it. And that's a unique kind of place to be in. People who want to be here and trying to find ways to keep things going while you're here.
People don't realize the vital role that urban foresters play in the city. It's a cliche term, but it's green infrastructure, but it's required infrastructure. It's absolutely required. And so you've got to have people to manage your infrastructure. And if that's maybe oversimplification of it, but people don't see that. They just see those trees there as some people view them as something beautiful. Some people view them as just something to maintain. Some people view them as a waste of money. Whatever your viewpoint is, somebody's still got to deal with them.
I guess just the fact that we exist, that we know what we're doing, that we care. We're not telling you no, we're not trimming your tree because we don't care or because we hate you, but because it's not due or doesn't need it or it would irreparably harm the tree. So we do care. We love the trees. That's why we're in this. And also part of it is like when it comes to removals, we're not removing the trees because we hate trees or because we're evil, villains with twirly mustache. We're doing it because there's a reason. We identify this tree as, being potentially hazardous or it's dead or dying. So we're removing it for those reasons, not because we're villains.
Because I think we are a small department. We don't have like a web page for the forestry side. We don't have, we don't advertise that I'm available. I think it's a good thing and a bad thing. I don't have a lot of time, but so I think this is the availability. I don't think people know that we have a city forester at the time.
3 things I wanted to point out in that video. I didn't want to pause just in case it went awry. First, Joe, he's in Brooklyn talking about how most of his job now is managing people. Anyone here feeling that way where you used to be outside in the field a lot and now you're maybe moving some paper around a little bit more? Oh, yeah, okay. I see a lot of hands going up. A recognizable thing within this profession of urban forestry where we might have started thinking we were going to be out in the field, out and doing a lot of trees in the groundwork, and now we're end up being more admin and administration, which is wonderful. We need that. So it's just like an acknowledgement of how the job can change as we grow within it. Matt from Rock Hill talked about trees as critical green infrastructure. A week ago, I was speaking at the American Public Works Association conference, a group of people that I very much want to get more involved with because so many departments fall within public works, and those bosses are the people making decisions ultimately about tree care or how much money is going into tree care. And our message to the public works officials there were that trees are true green infrastructure. You don't get a choice if you get a pipe in front of your house. Why do we give a choice if a tree is going in front of your house? But the only way we can really achieve that is through complete stewardship of tree care, because the city takes on full ownership of that pipe. They must take on full ownership of the tree as well. So I'd really love to hear more from you. In Iowa, this is not the case. If the tree breaks the sidewalk, the homeowner might have to take it on, and that puts an equity burden on many people. So how do we ensure that trees are really seen as that true green infrastructure and making sure that we have complete stewardship of trees? So I'd love to talk with people throughout the rest of the day if that's part of your work. And finally, Kyle and Robert both said, people don't know I exist. I challenge you, that sounds like we need to toot our horn a lot more than we are now. So if you don't have a web page, no one knows that you're an urban forester, they don't know that it's a true job that you're doing every day, please, today, tomorrow, make sure people understand that important job you're doing every single day.
Romanticize my.
In our role-playing games, often you're going through struggles. You're in the woods, it's dark, it's scary, there's things jumping out at you, and eventually you come to a clearing. And in that clearing, you might find a fairy or a dragon or something, some mystical being, like knowledge from the tree of wisdom, that helps you understand what's going to come next in your journey. So we asked our superheroes, what will your urban forest look like in 15 years? Or what was the prophecy from the old lady in the woods?
I'm pretty ambitious on that, like growing this apartment, tree mitigation funds. I hope our, like resource allocation is bigger. We have a pretty tiny budget compared to a lot of other cities. Big hopes. I think the size of Meridian and the size of our department, to me, it's not going to last. It's crazy when I talk to some of these other cities, they're like half the population, but they have like 8 people on staff. And I'm like, that's amazing.
I think I'm actually a little bit pessimistic, but I don't tend to admit that too much. Not really, but like if I'm honestly answering it, like I think this shit's uphill. Like it's going to be an uphill effort every step of the way, and every step of the way there's going to be something else. It's going to be a drought. It's going to be a flood. It's going to be a crazy ice storm, and so much of it it really keeps like these huge hits that take out significant chunks of overall canopy. That stuff doesn't get put back. You can't replace that a tree at a time.
Before I came, I lived in the community for 10 years. And in that 10-year period, when I was just teaching and I was just part of the community, there were less than 100 trees planted in that 10-year period. We had nobody that was putting in trees in our town. We had existing trees, and they would care for whatever's existing, mainly care for the stuff that was falling or broken or dead. But there was no new plantings. And so that was probably what I see is, okay, it took me 20 years, and you go around and you can pretty much say, oh, all these trees, I can tell these are 20-year-old or less. And what's exciting is going, oh, wow, now that's going to actually start being more mature here in the next several years and really put out some foliage and canopy. And so I see a continued, in our community, I see a continued emphasis on additional tree plantings that are part of our community development.
I'm hoping, obviously, they're going to, Rock Hill will wise up and invest more into the into the staff, and I hope to hire some really good ones. I hope to help to do that in my time period I have left here, which I have about 9 more years here. But still, it's that's my biggest hope, is because I really see so many things that we could really dive into and improve on.
We've come into the light a little bit more with City Council and others. We've gotten special funding to support a tree planting program. We've we've done all sorts of stuff to get more attention for the trees here. And so they're finally starting to be noticed a lot more. And so I think the trajectory is there. We just need to have some time and get a better plan in action. We are working on our vision and action plan right now, and we will be working on our urban forestry management plan. And so those are kind of key steps for us to start talking about these things and maybe propose some changes that might not happen right away, but that we could work towards over time. So maybe in the next 15 years, or within my career here, we can start to see some of those changes happen. That would be my hope, but we'll see what time brings.
I wanted to go back to what Emily King from Austin, Texas mentioned, that said she's feeling a little down. And I bring this up because I think in this line of work, it is easy to feel a little pessimistic. I would raise my hand enthusiastically if you say, do you feel like overwhelmed by invasive species? When that comes into my head, I want to pack it up and leave and be like, oh my God, what are we going to do? And I don't bring these things up to bring us down, but to acknowledge. I have a few operating phrases that I use, and one of them is that our greatest pain in life comes from fighting our reality. And by that, it means that if we don't accept what is, we cannot make a change from there. So I just bring up Emily's video and acknowledge that this is tough work that you're doing every day, and it can be hard. With that, I will bring our attention to Heath and Matt, who both said, Heath was in that small town outside of Des Moines where they hadn't planted they planted 100 trees in 10 years. Did you hear that? Like, you're probably laughing at that number. And in 20 years, he was able to plant those trees, and now he goes around and he sees his legacy. He sees the work. You get to do that every day. You're probably driving past trees he planted, and you can't believe how beautiful it looks now. So we deal with two realities in our life, the good and the bad, and acknowledging that that is within our urban forestry work. And the last thing I'll mention about that video is Heidi right here. Talking about overall with all of her comments, what really stuck out to me was her patience. 1 foot in front of the other, 1 tree ring at a time. You just keep going to try and get this work done. You put the best plan in place, acting with some urgency. We are in a climate crisis, so we need to act with some urgency, but also understand that it takes time to achieve these things. So, heroes like you need something to keep you going, something to keep that sword shining, the little wins, the big wins, the connection to the big picture, not using your sword for any sort of pruning in any sort of way. So we asked them, what keeps them going every single day? What is that beacon that keeps them going throughout the hard times?
Having conversations with Public Works Engineering, we've also been able to implement more tree-friendly designs as part of their projects. So, for example, there was a pavement project where they were going to plant some trees as part of the pavement project, but there was no space in the right-of-way to do that. It was just a roadbed and a sidewalk, and that's all the right-of-way space that we really had to work with. And I had casually mentioned that if we wanted to plant trees, then the only way that we were going to do that was to build a median and take up irrelevant median space that's not utilized as turn lanes and create a tree median instead. And I didn't expect that to actually go anywhere, but the project manager was really amenable to it and included that as part of the project. And so when they repaved and redesigned the road, they actually created tree medians to be able to plant trees as part of that project. So we went from a tree desert to what will be kind of more of a tree oasis, because we're having conversations and trying to advocate for tree-friendly things here.
I actually have a funny anecdote about that. We had an analyst in our division. He had come from the DOT, and he was with us for about 8 months, working on admin stuff. No urban forestry background at all. I've been working with the bus is at DOT. He comes over and he starts interacting with us and learning what we do. He joined a couple of public meetings at the Urban Forest Task Force, just to attend and learn. And he leaves those meetings, it's like, wow, He's like, I had no clue what you guys deal with. He's like, I did no clue. Like, now that you guys mention it, I'm looking around all these trees. Like, these trees did not just appear here. They're not just get maintained as well just by accident. This is intentional. Everything you do is intentional. Like, this is not an accident. Like, I'm learning this. That's awesome. He went back to the DOT, so he's gone. But I just loved hearing his amazement at learning all this, because he was just an outsider coming in temporarily, and he's just, wow.
A lot of soul searching last year about the link to the big picture from my job, because sometimes I'm just going out looking at trees and giving them permits, and it just feels so like, straightforward. But I found this little blurb, and I say it that I am here to maintain the balance of the built environment and the trees. And so I look at it that way, and I try really hard to spread that feeling around me, because if you don't see it that way, it's not what we do, right? It has a bigger purpose. It's not just math. We're not just inventorying the trees we're cutting down or retaining. It's for a reason.
Keep fixing problems. The world is full of problems. I can't solve all the problems the world has. I can't be at every place, but where I'm at now, I can, help with the problem with trees. I can keep them up. I can help with planting more. I can help with educating people. I can help with those things.
I love that from Frank so much. Next time you're having a hard day and you're like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Say, today I'm going to keep the trees up. And that is a pretty dang good thing to be able to do. So next time, I'm going to keep the trees up. And that's what I'm going to do today. So throughout this talk, you've heard me allude to this multiverse. We live in an urban forestry multiverse. And in these role-playing games, in your multiverse, you generally form a team that comes together, and you get the warrior, you get the witch, you get the prophet, you get the mage, you get the person who goes out and finds the path forward. And I like to think of that as our sectors here on your left. We all come from different sectors here in this room today, and we have to form together in our multiverse to be able to find the treasure, to win, to do the work we need to do every single day. And each individual one of us has our own knowledge and skills. You in the center as an urban forester, hopefully build on a strong foundation of arboriculture and ecology, and you're growing that every single day with knowledge that you'll learn today at other locations. You're probably growing your project management experience. But your level of public speaking is never going to be that high, because you're like, I don't like it. My power level is very low in that area. I'm never going to be able to do it. So I ask you throughout the day, as you start thinking about what your power levels are. This is Mark, Executive Director of KC Trees, and this is for presentation purposes only, and in no way, oh no. Can you click for me? And in no way represents Mark's true ability. So only for presentation purposes only. So as you face more challenge, you start building your power sources. And today you will ask yourself, what am I good at? What am I not good at? Who do I need to add to my team to make it work? And you'll do just that. In these role-playing games, you find a person that has more experience than you. Mitty and Mark, here's Earl from DC. I added myself to your team because I hope that we can work together to try and find the mystical thing to add more trees into the ground. And as our team starts to build and we do more things together, you might just join a society or a guild in this world of multiverses, and you learn things and you keep getting better at the job you do. A society or a guild, if you will, offers you things to get better at your job. It helps build your confidence. It helps make you better at what you're doing every single day. Here's just a few things that we're able to offer our members and the professionals across the country and globe doing this work. Arborist Exchange, mentorship program, monthly learning series, things that help them understand their job and, again, help them feel more confident in those decisions so that they're able to find the mystery, find the trees, get more in the ground, get more cared for. So as I wrap up here today, I just, again, want to leave you with this. We need you. You're not alone. And the Urban Community Forestry Society and its members across the country are here for you. And as you go through the rest of the day, I'm going to ask you, how will you level up? How will you increase your power strength in certain areas? What knowledge will you learn today that will increase one of your power sources? How can you share your strengths that others can level up? How will you connect with people to help your team grow? And how will you engage more people in community or in society to make big tree things happen? So thank you for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Leslie. We now have about 5 or 10 minutes for questions. So if you do have a question, you can raise your hand, and some of our staff, Alex and Lucy here, give Alex and Lucy a hand too. They'll come around with a microphone to help you. Microphone's up there. I can kick us off with a question though while waiting for that though. So you've had many roles before this role you're currently in out in the field, and about if you can imagine yourself interviewing virtually as some of this professionals you interviewed there, yourself back in the day, what do you think you would have said about your voice in urban forestry at that time?
Well, you know, it wasn't until a year ago that I would have said I was an urban forester. I worked at Trees Forever for 11 years, and if you'd asked me what my job was, I would have said I'm a nonprofit worker, I'm a program manager, I'm a program director. I never once said I was an urban forester because I didn't know it was a job until I got this job, which might sound really strange, but this is this idea of starting to put labels and text to things so that people understand what it is and they can start wrapping their head around it as well. So I think that might have been what I shared with people, just the fact that it is a job that people do every single day.
We got a question over here.
Hi. I was struck by, in your participants, how many didn't know how many trees they had. And I was wondering, when in the textbooks on urban forestry, having a tree inventory, and particularly getting the software to do that, seems quite important. I'm from a small town, 1 staff member, 2 square miles, spending $500,000 over 5 years to give free trees to private homeowners. You know, is that a good use of resources versus finding out how many trees we have?
You know, I'm not quite sure the resource allocation, but I always think that it's better to have more data than less data and to know what you're actually managing, what you're starting with, so you know where to go. As you're giving out trees, you right now have no idea what your population of trees are. Maybe you're really high in crab apples or maple trees. And so if those keep being given out to community members, now you've supplied the stock with certain species of trees. You don't know what condition every single tree is, so you're not able to make decisions every single day on how to care for those trees. So personally, I do think some sort of tree inventory is like a critical thing to start with. And it is not unusual for communities not to have them, especially small towns. Sometimes volunteers go out and do it, and you train them up really well, and you get them out to do tree inventory. There's new technology coming on that's making it cheaper because it's driving around and doing tree inventories based off of camera footage. So the price of some of that's coming down, but I personally think an inventory is a really critical thing to have.
We have a question over here.
I guess one of the things I've kind of noticed throughout just studying science and biology and things like that is that I feel like there's this impression of just nature lovers and scientists and foresters, and a lot of different people work in this field as caring more about nature than people, and that's one of the reasons why I think there's kind of an almost automatic negative impression that I think is one of the biggest one of the biggest challenges you have to face when you're trying to do something, especially in an urban environment. What are some of the ways that you try to create a positive image for urban forestry and try to show that you care about the people, the human side of it, just as much, which I think is a problem for some conservation efforts and things like that? How do you combat that?
Yeah. Well, you know, truthfully, I might be one of those people who count myself as maybe loving animals and trees, and that's one of my driving forces over maybe engaging with people as much. And I think, I hope that's okay to admit and be vulnerable here, because I imagine there's quite a few in this audience that feel that same way, or that's at least where I started. That was my driving force when I started. And I think for me, it's like that goal, the same thing that helps trees, helps animals, helps humans as well. So it's that if it's not your driving force every day, in a roundabout way, it ends up driving the work that really impacts humans in a community every day. And I think once you get out there and you start talking with more people and you're hearing about their passions, it's infectious, and you're able to say, well, I can see where they're coming from and I can help lead as well. So I think that's where it comes to mind for me.
We have time for one or two more questions if someone would like. You can raise your hand.
You have a question over here?
All right.
I'm probably the person here with the least amount of knowledge. I am just a local villager, and I wanted to be more conversant in my discussions about trees. And I wanted to make sure that I used every opportunity I had to be a limited but committed partner with the people doing your work. So here are the things I've done so far that I would like to know from all of you. What would you have me do next? I constantly watch the park. It's a little village called Friendship Heights. I take pictures of the trees and send them to everybody in the village. Oh, look what's happening here, or look what's happening there. I volunteer. I go to council meetings, but there must be more. And I thought, coming to this conference, slightly intimidated, I would learn more and be able to be a better force for what you all do. So I'd like some suggestions.
I think you got your answer right there. Everyone is very excited that you're here today, because we need more citizens who really care about this to be the advocates. Because if you're a professional working for government, you're not able to advocate and lobby as much as you would like to your city officials. So having passionate people within communities is really important. So thank you for being here today. And someone make sure to go talk with this young woman in the back about tree training classes and how she can get more engaged.
Well, thank you, Leslie. Can we give her a big hand?